Hey guys, welcome back to Daniel Rosehill Plus here on YouTube. My name is Daniel Rosehill. This is my more eclectic YouTube channel focused on really nothing. So if that sounds like what you want to get in your YouTube feed, then feel free to hit the subscribe button and continue receiving my eclecticness. But today I want to talk about a topic that's really quite important to me and which has been affecting me throughout essentially my whole adult life, and which I only recently got around to actually thinking about ways to sort of like help. And that is something called noise sensitivity. And I made this video actually to talk about a product I discovered recently called Loop Earplugs. These are definitely sort of trending in popularity. From what I understand, it's a Belgian startup, which is in itself pretty random that a startup would get involved in developing a novel form of earplugs. It doesn't really sound like your classic startup thing your startup does, but they're actually a pretty cool company and a pretty cool team, and their product is quite interesting. So before I get into that, and before I talk about my sort of like updated solutions, and I'm recording this in October of 2023, and I mentioned the date because the products on the market for noise sensitivity and sound sensitivity, and I think that's really kind of the same thing, they are evolving. So I'm making this in October 2023, and I hope that if I make the same video in 2025, there's going to be different, better products out there on the market. So let me talk firstly about what noise sensitivity is. Before I sort of get into these solutions, let me just describe the problem, as it were. So basically from a young age, like when I was, 16, or as long as I can really remember my adult life, I've had trouble concentrating in noisy environments. So, and my threshold for what is a noisy environment is a lot lower than, perhaps that of many people. So if my family was watching television and I could hear the television, I would have difficulty focusing on study, right? This was back when I was in high school. And that's really persisted into adulthood when I was working at a job for just because it does kind of matter. I've worked in marketing communications for tech companies, and now I'm working as a communications advisor for a individual person and for his associated nonprofit. So basically I work in communications, a lot of writing, social media, video editing, all that kind of stuff. And it tends to be quite focus intensive work. And the way I work is not necessarily like putting in always 12-hour days. I don't think that's healthy. I tend to work in very concentrated periods. So when I'm in that kind of focus zone, I really need to have quiet, basically. And if there is noise, whether that's again the television running or just people having a normal tone conversation, it impedes on my ability to focus. And I realize that's on me, as it were. I'm the abnormal one, but I think that this whole concept of neurodivergence, is there really a normal? It's a neurodivergent type of brain that I'm sensitive to sound. There are a couple of sort of actual medical diagnoses that kind of almost capture this. One of them is misophonia, which is when you're like triggered by very specific sounds. Another one of them is hyperacusis. But noise sensitivity, I feel like kind of skirts a little bit around these two problems. And it's kind of a separate thing, although it's not yet been formalized in, as far as I'm aware, a diagnosis. So my problem got really bad when I moved to my current apartment, and there's a lot of traffic noise, and I literally almost had a nervous breakdown. I was so stressed by it. So I was like, okay, it's time to tackle this once and for all and see what I can do, both in terms of products and in terms of changing the way my own brain reacts to sound, to make my current living situation a bit better. So one of the first products I came across, thanks to a few subreddits, was Loop Earplugs. So I'm holding in my hand the Loop Quiet and I believe the Loop Engage Plus. I actually picked up 3 different types of loops. I picked up the Loop Quiet, the Loop Engage Plus, and the Loop Experience. Loop Earplugs, as I mentioned, it's a startup bringing different earplugs to market. People, when I would, in the past maybe describe the issue I have as focusing in noisy environments, would ask me, well, why don't you just wear earplugs? And my answer was, well, earplugs kind of suck. They're really uncomfortable. They're intended for single use, and it's not really hygienic to use them repeatedly. And they're just kind of uncomfortable and a bit icky. So earplugs, I even bought like this kind of whole bag full of cheap earplugs from AliExpress, but from 3M or something. But I just never really could find myself getting into them. So Loop earplugs bring a bit of innovation to the product design. They're firstly intended to be more comfortable to wear. Secondly, the reason they have different products is because some of their products filter different levels of noise. So you have the quiets, which are the maximum noise reduction ratio ones, right? They reduce as much noise as possible. They even have this little insert called the mute, that will increase the noise reduction by a further 5 decibels, and you can take them in and take them out, which is kind of clever. The Loop Experience and Engage Plus are lower noise filtering level ones, right? So if you're parenting and you want to take the edge off, so to speak, from a crying baby, but you need to be able to hear the cries to parent effectively, you can wear this product. And Experience, kind of, again, a lower NRR product intended for people who want to take the edge off really loud noise, but maybe they want to do so if you're at a bar, but you want to be able to have a conversation. So that's why it's called the Engage, as far as I know. You can engage with people, but you just tamper down the noise of the world a little bit. So the whole paradigm that they've come up with, like different degrees of noise filtering within the world of earplugs, is itself kind of groundbreaking. So that's number one. I really recommend. They're about $25 each, but if, like me, you struggle so much with this problem that it can interfere with your quality of life and cause you enormous stress and cause you insomnia, then from my perspective, it's worth it. However much money it takes, it literally, when I can't focus due to noise, it puts my livelihood at peril. So I think for $25, people do complain about the price. I think it's pretty reasonable for an earplug that you have to remember is intended for reuse. So you can clean these, wash these, they have instructions, and you add up the cost of buying those once off earplugs, or maximum, some of them can be used up to 5 times. And I think you're going to come out ahead with the Loops. And Loops are bringing more products to market. So as the company, I intend really keeping my eye on. I'm also waiting on custom earplugs. I'm hopefully getting them this week. That's a whole nother topic I'll discuss. And I want to do a comparison once I get my custom earplugs. All right. So the second thing, just to kind of add a couple of things, is this thing called a Pro Case. These are earmuffs, and I just want to point out for people who have the Loops, but you might be in a situation that's so noisy that there's sound coming in anyway, you can double up on these. And the final thing that I have picked up recently is just classic ANC headphones. These are from Sony, and active noise cancellation. When we're talking about loops and we're talking about earmuffs, we're talking about passive noise isolation. We're literally putting stuff over and into our ears to stop the sound coming in. And when we're dealing with ANC, it's a technology system that tries to cancel out external noise through playing opposing frequencies. So they're all my opinion. I'm experimenting with what works in different circumstances. When I'm out of the house, ANC, I can listen to music while being a bit isolated from the noise. But if I just want to focus on noise isolation, I've got my loops. And I'll just show you guys how the double up procedure works. Not that there's too much to see. You just put in your loops, and it's going to be a little bit weird doing this video while I can sort of hear myself, and it changes the way you hear yourself speak. So my loops are now in, and then you can just, if you really need, as I mentioned, put on these goofy looking earmuffs. And then if I take those, and that really gets you to like a very high level of sound isolation. And now I've taken out my loops and everything is kind of back to normal. It's kind of difficult I always find it weird when I'm recording myself in a professional studio, or I've done a couple of radio interviews over the years, and they give you these big earplugs and they make it so that you can hear yourself really well. And it's always kind of a weird experience. Anyway, that's basically all I have to say. I think loops, are they a gimmick? I don't think so at all. I think they're like a really legitimate product made by a company that really cares about this problem. They're very much tuned into noise sensitivity. In fact, that's one of the main use cases they highlight on their website. And these have honestly been sort of life-changing since I have them. I basically alternate between the Quiet, the Experience Plus, and sometimes I do not wear them because I don't think it's healthy to have earplugs in all the time. But certainly when there is lots of external noise where I'm working, honking traffic, that kind of thing, my go-to now will be to put in the Quiets. If that doesn't do it, if that doesn't quite get me there, and unfortunately when there is honking, it's just that level of noise and that frequency, it cuts through them, then I'll go for the earmuffs. And if I'm in the mood to actually listen to music, I put in the ANC guys, and that'll give me the active noise cancellation, and I can also listen to something, and that can help as well. You can't use them in parallel. You can't both be listening to... I mean, you could try just using the ANC function on an ANC headphone and using the loops. That might be an experiment I'll do this week. So there are definitely strategies out there if, like me, you're noise sensitive. And another really nice thing about the loops is that they almost look cool. They're kind of discreet, and they're intended to be sort of fashionable. So something that I've realized from being on this subreddit, discovering these loops, is that there's more people out there dealing with this issue of noise sensitivity than you'd think. It's very common in autism. It's also common in ADHD, depression, anxiety, and just a problem by itself. So there's lots of people out there who are affected and who process noise from the world differently than most people. And it can be, you don't need to tell me this, but I'm telling other people this, it can be massively quality of life impairing, can make it difficult to focus, can make it, if you're in a focus intensive job, can make it hard to do your job as well as you can. And I think that innovation in the earplug market, like Loops have brought, is extremely, extremely both overdue and welcome. So thank you, Loop, for existing. Please continue innovating with your products. And I recommend anyone with noise sensitivity really buy a few of their products. Don't cheap out. Get 3 or 4 different types if you can afford it, of course, and just see what works best for you with trial and error, and keep looping. Become a looper. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope this video has been helpful, and until next time.